In the shadowed underbelly of a bustling Texas city, where the neon glow of holiday shopping malls clashed with the quiet desperation of everyday lives, a story of betrayal and brutality unfolded on one of the most chaotic days of the year, Black Friday, November 28, 2014. Fort Worth, in Tarrant County, was alive with the frenzy of early morning deals, shoppers lining up before dawn, their breaths fogging in the crisp autumn air. But in a modest apartment complex on the city's outskirts, a different kind of darkness was descending, one that would claim the life of Ashley Harris, a 31-year-old woman whose life was snuffed out in a blaze of greed and rage. This is her story, woven from the threads of court records, witness accounts, and the chilling echoes of a crime that shocked Tarrant County. From the moment she walked into a room, Ashley Ann Harris had a way of making everything brighter. Born on November 2, 1983, in Fort Worth, Texas, she grew up in a loving, close-knit family that nurtured her cheerful spirit and relentless determination. Those who knew her best described her as the kind of person whose laughter could lift anyone's mood and whose kindness made even strangers feel like friends. Her best friend, Stephanie Naylor, once said, "She was the really cute, fun, outgoing person. People were just drawn to her no matter who they were." Ashley carried her faith proudly, immortalized in a tattoo on her body. Jeremiah 29:11, a verse that spoke of hope and purpose. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plan to give you hope and a future." It was more than ink. It was her guiding belief in a meaningful future. After finishing high school, Ashley wasn't entirely sure where life would take her, but her drive pushed her forward. She found her footing in retail, starting from the ground up and steadily proving her worth. By 2011, her dedication paid off when she became the assistant manager at American Eagle Outfitters in Hulen Mall. The work was hectic, especially during the holiday rush, but Ashley thrived under pressure, often staying late to make sure everything ran perfectly. Outside of work, she led a quiet, independent life in her cozy apartment at the River Ranch complex on King Ranch Road, not far from the mall. Her beloved golden retriever, Nala, was her pride and joy. Even on the busiest days, Ashley made sure Nala was cared for, sometimes leaving her door unlocked so her neighbor, Alexis Torres, could check in. To everyone around her, Ashley seemed unstoppable, full of warmth, ambition, and light. No one could have imagined that her vibrant life would soon be cut short in a way that would leave Fort Worth shaken. What seemed like a stable, ordinary work life for Ashley Harris was quietly unraveling behind the scenes. Beneath her upbeat personality and strong work ethic, tension was brewing at the store, a storm she never saw fully coming. In August 2014, chaos hit American Eagle Outfitters when a masked intruder stole nearly $18,000 from the store's night deposit drop box just after midnight. Ashley, dedicated and detail-oriented, took the incident personally. Determined to uncover the truth, she combed through surveillance footage, piecing together clues others might have missed. Something wasn't right. A door left unlocked, unusual absences, inconsistencies that pointed to someone on the inside. Her instincts led her to two familiar faces: Carter Cervantes, a fellow assistant manager known for her fiery temper, and Clarence David Mallory Jr., Carter's boyfriend and a store employee. Carter, only 27, had built a reputation as someone you didn't cross. Former co-worker Letitia Groen later recalled, "She was the one you wanted to like you, because if you got on her bad side, there was no coming back." Carter had previously hired Mallory, then just 19, at another store, breaking company policy by dating a subordinate. When he was fired for skipping shifts, she went to extraordinary lengths to get him rehired, even manipulating his application and altering his social security number. When Ashley brought her findings to the store manager, Chris Cravey, the consequences were swift. Carter was suspended and fired, and Mallory disappeared before being officially terminated. But the fallout didn't end there. As Groen later testified, Carter did hold this against Ashley, because she was the one who turned them in. What Ashley didn't realize was that her pursuit of truth had made her a target. Jobless, angry, and consumed by resentment, Carter Cervantes and Clarence Mallory began plotting a dark and calculated act of vengeance. What started as workplace tension spiraled into a cold-blooded plan that would shock Fort Worth to its core. Investigators would later uncover disturbing text messages between the pair, messages that mapped out every step of their scheme. Their goal was chillingly clear: track Ashley, take her life, and use her keys to rob the store during the biggest cash weekend of the year, Black Friday. Carter had once joked about stealing from the store after major sales events like tax-free weekend, but now those jokes had turned into reality. Together, they began assembling a so-called murder kit: duct tape, rope, gloves, a tarp, and even shovels. They went so far as to dig a shallow grave in a remote area north of Abilene, the GPS coordinates later found on Mallory's phone. Prosecutors would describe their plan as one fueled by anger and control, with Carter as the manipulative planner and Mallory as her obedient enforcer. Meanwhile, Ashley's Thanksgiving passed quietly. She enjoyed dinner with friends at her apartment complex before heading to the store for her evening shift, ready for the Black Friday rush that would begin at midnight. After wrapping up around 3:15 a.m., she returned home exhausted but cheerful. Her neighbor, Alexis Torres, dropped by to chat and left shortly after 4 a.m., noticing Ashley's keys resting on the kitchen counter, just as always. When Ashley locked the door behind her friend, it was likely just habit, a motion meant to appear safe. But that small, trusting gesture would soon have devastating consequences. As dawn approached and the world still slept, a nightmare unfolded inside Ashley's apartment. Sometime between 4:15 and 7:30 a.m., darkness, both literal and human, crept through her door. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the attackers either knew how to get in or were welcomed by Ashley herself. Outside, a black Infiniti G35 sat ominously in the parking lot. Neighbor Stephen Lee later recalled spotting the unfamiliar car around 6:30 a.m., unaware it marked the scene of a tragedy in progress. Inside, Ashley fought for her life. Bruises and defensive wounds told the story of her desperate struggle. But she was outmatched. Investigators later determined that Mallory likely struck her repeatedly, leaving blunt injuries to her head and face. Traces of her DNA found on the weapon later recovered, a Glock 19. Strangulation followed, the bruising around her neck showing the horrifying effort it took to silence her. To conceal what they'd done, Carter and Mallory tried to burn away the evidence. They splashed rubbing alcohol throughout the bedroom and set it ablaze, even removing the smoke detector to delay discovery. But the fire burned unevenly. Flames flickered, smoke thickened, and though the damage was severe, the truth survived the ashes. As the sun began to rise over Fort Worth that Friday morning, the calm of the River Ranch apartments shattered. Around 7:30 a.m., neighbor Patrick Sweet was jolted awake by a chilling scream, followed by a heavy thud and the sound of strained breathing. Moments later, he spotted a black Infiniti with a faded toll tag sticker speeding away from the complex. Seconds turned into panic when his carbon monoxide alarm blared, signaling something far worse: a fire. Sweet quickly called 911 and firefighters rushed to the scene. Neighbor Jeff Kaiser tried to break in to help, but was driven back by thick, choking smoke pouring from Ashley's apartment. When firefighters finally subdued the flames, they made a grim discovery: Ashley's lifeless body, bound and badly burned, amid blood-stained floors and scorched bedding. Homicide detectives soon arrived, noting that nothing of value was stolen. Only Ashley's keys were missing, including those to her car, home, and store. Her wallet still held 2 $5 bills, confirming this was no ordinary break-in. Investigators retraced her final hours. Ashley had shared Thanksgiving dinner with friends, including Alexis Torres, before heading to work the late Black Friday shift at American Eagle in Hulen Mall. She returned home around 3:15 a.m., exhausted. Alexis visited briefly and left just after 4 a.m. At 6:56 a.m., Alexis noticed a missed call from Ashley, one she'd never return. Police believed she was attacked between 4:15 and 7:30 a.m., and attention quickly turned to finding the driver of that mysterious Infiniti G35. Investigators were closing in fast. When they asked Alexis Torres if she recognized anyone who drove a black Infiniti G35, she shook her head. She didn't. But when store manager Chris Cravey, Ashley's boss, heard about the inquiry, he immediately provided a lead. He told police that one of his former employees, Carter Carol Cervantes, drove that exact model. Detectives quickly set up surveillance outside Carter's apartment. Early the next morning, around 8 a.m. on Saturday, they watched as she exited her home and climbed into her Infiniti G35 with a man. The pair drove straight to Hewlin Mall, the very place Ashley had worked. When they arrived, Carter went inside while the man parked the car, giving officers the perfect opportunity to approach. The man identified himself as Clarence David Mallory, Carter's boyfriend and a former employee of the same American Eagle store. But when he failed to produce a valid driver's license, police took him into custody. At the station, officers noticed something strange. He wore a brand new ski mask, complete with the plastic price tag fastener still attached, and had a swollen lower lip, as if from a recent struggle. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together. Despite watching Clarence drop Carter Cervantes off at the mall, officers couldn't find her anywhere inside. Hours later, they discovered her back at her apartment complex, casually doing laundry. When brought in for questioning, Carter claimed she hadn't left home all day. But surveillance footage quickly unraveled her story. It clearly showed her leaving the mall and walking toward her apartment, likely after spotting police talking to Clarence in the parking lot. Detectives noticed fresh scratches on her arms, as if from a recent struggle. As they dug deeper, a motive began to surface. Among Ashley's missing belongings were her store keys, which also unlocked the American Eagle safe. Investigators believed the pair's true target was money, not murder. Ashley had simply stood in their way. Their plan had been to eliminate her, steal the keys, and raid the store after Black Friday's massive sales. But when they arrived to carry out the heist, the locks had already been changed. Their elaborate plan had failed. When investigators combed through Carter and Clarence's apartment, what they uncovered painted a chilling picture of premeditation. Inside a plastic tub, they discovered bungee cords, rope, and in the kitchen, a taser box and strands of duct tape tossed carelessly in the trash. A damaged deadbolt and 2 other locks labeled "lock-picking practice" hinted at their rehearsed intent. The search of Carter's black Infiniti G35 was even more revealing. Officers found a knife sharpening stone, a 9mm cartridge, walkie-talkies, a buck knife, and a toboggan with a hole cut out, likely used as a mask. A tarp still sealed in its package, a kitchen knife, and a loaded Glock 19 with a bullet chambered lay hidden beneath the driver's seat. Forensic testing confirmed what detectives feared most. Ashley's blood was found on the car's floor mats. On December 4, 2014, both Carter Cervantes and Clarence Mallory were arrested and charged with capital murder. The state opted against the death penalty, instead pursuing life without parole. Though both pleaded not guilty, prosecutors argued that Carter was the true mastermind behind the deadly plan. Her trial was the first to begin. During the trial, prosecutors revealed a chilling double motive behind the crime: greed and revenge. According to their case, Carter Cervantes and Clarence Mallory didn't just want Ashley's store keys to steal money from the American Eagle safe. They also wanted payback. They blamed her for the chain of events that led to their firing, a grudge that would soon turn deadly. Back in June 2014, when store manager Chris Cravey went on medical leave, Ashley was temporarily promoted to oversee operations. Carter, already an assistant manager, used that time to illegally rehire her boyfriend Clarence, who had previously been marked in the company system as non-rehirable. She tampered with his information, altering his name and social security number to slip him through unnoticed. Then came August 24, 2014, when $18,000 vanished from the store safe after closing. Ashley reviewed the surveillance footage and realized the back door had been left unlocked by Carter. Even more incriminating, the footage showed Clarence entering the store and taking the cash. When Chris returned, he was stunned to learn what had happened. Carter and Clarence, now exposed, were both terminated. Prosecutors argued that from that moment on, their anger toward Ashley turned into obsession. They believed she was the one who destroyed their livelihoods, and they intended to make her pay. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as prosecutors laid out the chilling depth of Carter Cervantes and Clarence Mallory's premeditated plan. After Ashley suspended Carter, store manager Chris Cravey called a week later to deliver the final blow. Carter was officially terminated for leaving the American Eagle store unsecured. That call, prosecutors argued, was the moment her anger turned into something far darker. Investigators testified that over the following weeks, Carter and Clarence carefully plotted to abduct Ashley and steal her store keys. On their phones, detectives discovered photographs of Ashley's apartment, her front door, and her car, clear evidence of stalking. Even more disturbing, detectives uncovered GPS coordinates saved in text messages between the pair. When Detective Cedillo entered those coordinates into Google Earth, they pointed to a remote area near Ludas, Texas. When he drove to the location, he found a freshly dug pit, 6 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. It looked unmistakably like a grave. Prosecutors argued that the original plan was to kidnap Ashley at gunpoint, take her to that remote spot, and end her life there. But when Ashley bravely fought back inside her apartment, their plan fell apart, and they chose to end it there instead. When police later searched Clarence's Cadillac, the evidence was undeniable. 2 shovels, plastic sheeting, and a craftsman tool set, all part of what prosecutors called a murder kit. Addressing the jury, prosecutor Kevin Rousseau delivered a haunting statement. There are no good murders. But at least there are some you can understand. This was different. At a minimum, this took at least a month of planning. They stalked Ashley Harris like people stalk a deer. In court, arson investigator Wallace E. Hood Jr. revealed chilling details about the fire scene. He determined that the blaze had multiple starting points, one in the bed, another on Ashley's body, and a third in the closet. Even more disturbing, the smoke detector had been removed and found hidden beneath the mattress, suggesting someone deliberately tried to delay the alarm. Then came the digital evidence. FBI Special Agent Mark Sedgwick, an expert in cellular analysis, testified about a series of text messages exchanged between Carter and Clarence late on November 28th. Carter texted, "Hey, remember that thing you said I didn't clean well? Did you clean it? Did we leave it behind?" Clarence replied, "We left it. I didn't touch it." Carter responded, "Well, damn. That's not good. Take out all the trash and leave that. I need to take care of that. I'm so sorry I forgot." The messages painted a haunting picture of guilt and panic, one that spoke louder than words. In the early hours of November 29, 2014, security footage from outside the American Eagle store captured a shadowy figure crouched by the gate lock around 2 a.m., struggling to lift it. Their face was concealed, and though they tried to gain entry, they failed. The locks had been changed just in time. Prosecutors later told the jury that the person caught on camera was Carter Cervantes, returning to carry out the second phase of her plan. By 8 a.m., Carter and Clarence were back at the mall, unaware that police were tailing them. Officers moved in and arrested Clarence in the parking lot. He claimed Carter had gone inside to pick up paperwork, but when police searched the building, she was nowhere to be found. Hours later, they discovered her hiding back at her apartment complex. When the court delved into the medical findings, the true brutality of what Ashley endured became heartbreakingly clear. Dr. Richard Fries, deputy medical examiner at the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office, was the one who performed the autopsy, and his testimony painted a harrowing picture. Ashley had suffered numerous traumatic injuries, deep cuts to her scalp and cheek, severe bruising across her face and eyes, and a distinctive patterned bruise that hinted at a weapon being used. There were abrasions on her chin and lips, and behind her left ear, a star-shaped wound surrounded by bruising, the telltale sign of being struck with a pistol. She had also sustained a knife wound to the neck, along with additional bruises and scrapes across her upper body and arms. Dr. Fries testified that these injuries were consistent with a vicious and repeated assault. He also revealed the presence of petechiae in her eyes, a sign of asphyxia, and noted a rare fracture of the cricoid cartilage, something typically seen only in high-impact trauma cases, underscoring the sheer violence of the attack. When the medical examiner's report confirmed that Ashley's death resulted from asphyxia and blunt force trauma, there was no doubt her death was a homicide. During Carter's trial, she tried to convince the jury she had nothing to do with it. Taking the stand in her own defense, Carter claimed she lived in constant fear of Clarence. She said he controlled every part of her life, even dictating when she could eat or sleep. Carter admitted she attempted to enter the American Eagle store but insisted she did so only because Clarence threatened to harm her and her family if she refused. Her testimony included disturbing claims that Clarence once invited two strangers into their apartment who then assaulted her, and that on the night Ashley was killed, she had been asleep, unaware of what was happening. She maintained that she never harmed Ashley and had no part in her death. But the jury wasn't convinced. After just 2 hours of deliberation, they found her guilty of murder, sentencing her to life in prison without parole. Clarence faced his own trial soon after, and met the same fate. Ashley's family grieved profoundly. Her mother spoke of a light extinguished. They established a memorial fund for violence victims. The case spurred discussions on retail safety, key protocols, employee screenings. Ashley Ann Harris's death stands as a chilling reminder of how greed and betrayal can drive even the most unthinkable acts of violence. A woman full of ambition, kindness, and determination, Ashley's life was senselessly cut short by those she once trusted, individuals who valued material gain over human life. Despite the shocking brutality of her final moments, her story has continued to resonate deeply, shedding light on the dark intersections of workplace envy, manipulation, and callous disregard for another's humanity. In the aftermath, Ashley's loved ones were left to navigate an unimaginable grief, while investigators and prosecutors worked tirelessly to ensure that her killers were brought to justice. The resolution of her case not only brought answers, but also underscored the importance of persistence and truth in the face of horror. Though no verdict can ever erase the pain of losing someone so full of life, Ashley's memory lives on as a symbol of strength and resilience. Her story serves as a stark warning about the dangers that can lurk behind familiarity, and a powerful reminder that justice, though delayed, can still bring light to even the darkest of crimes. If you found this video compelling, leave a like and your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and watch our other videos.